I never thought a single afternoon could shatter the walls I'd built around my heart. Walls forged from the red rock canyons of Arizona and the unyielding spirit of my Navajo people. But there I was, atop my Mustang, scouting the edges of our sacred lands under a sky choked with swirling dust devils. The wind howled like the ghosts of ancestors warning me away, but I pressed on, my bow slung across my back and my revolver holstered at my side, a blend of old ways and the encroaching new world that threatened to swallow us whole. That's when I heard the shots, sharp cracks echoing off the canyon walls, followed by the guttural shouts of men who sounded like they were born from the devil himself. I urged my horse forward, cresting a ridge just in time to see the chaos unfold below at the shallow stream that cut through the desert like a vein of life. A wagon train, settlers from the east no doubt, had been ambushed by a gang of outlaws, their faces masked in bandanas, rifles blazing as they circled like vultures. In the midst of it all stood a woman. She was alone by the stream's edge, her dress torn and muddied, but her stance was defiant, a pistol clutched in her trembling hands. Her hair, the color of sun-bleached corn, whipped around her face as she fired back at the nearest bandit, missing wide but refusing to cower. Her eyes, God, those eyes, burned with a fire that pierced right through me, even from afar. She was no fragile flower, she was a storm wrapped in fragile skin, facing death with the kind of grit that made my blood run hot. I didn't think. I acted. Kicking my heels into my horse's flanks, I charged down the slope, drawing my revolver as the dust billowed around me like a war cry. The outlaws, 5 of them by my count, turned their attention to the new threat, but I was faster. My first shot caught one in the shoulder, spinning him off his horse. The second felled another clean through the chest, his body crumpling into the shallow water with a splash that turned the stream red. "Get the hell out of here!" I roared, my voice cutting through the gunfire like a thunderclap. The woman glanced my way, her eyes widening in surprise, but she didn't hesitate. She fired again, this time grazing an outlaw's arm and sending him scrambling for cover. The fight was brutal and quick, the kind that leaves scars on your soul as much as your flesh. One bandit charged me on horseback, his knife gleaming in the fading light. I dodged, firing point blank into his gut, feeling the recoil jolt up my arm. Another tried to flank me, but I wheeled my horse around, my bow now in hand. I preferred the silence of an arrow for close work. It whistled through the air and buried itself in his thigh, dropping him screaming to the ground. By the time the dust settled, 3 outlaws lay dead or dying, and the remaining 2 fled into the canyons, tails between their legs. My horse snorted, stamping the ground as I dismounted, my heart pounding not just from the adrenaline, but from the sight of her. She was kneeling now, a shallow gash across her arm from a stray bullet, blood seeping through her sleeve. But she looked up at me with those fierce blue eyes, a mix of gratitude and wariness that tugged at something deep inside me, something I'd long buried under duty and tradition. Who are you?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Her accent was Eastern, Boston maybe, soft around the edges but laced with steel. "Cale," I said simply, kneeling beside her to inspect the wound. "Son of Chief Nahuel of the Navajo. You're on our land, stranger. What brings you to this god-forsaken place?" She winced as I tore a strip from my shirt to bind her arm, but she didn't pull away.
Amelia Hargrove.
"We're heading west from Boston, my family and I, seeking a new start after losing everything back home." Her eyes flickered with pain, not just from the cut, but from memories that mirrored my own. I knew that look. I'd seen it in the mirror after my mother's death in a skirmish with rival tribes years ago. I nodded, tying the bandage tight. "The West ain't kind to dreamers, Miss Hargrove. Those outlaws, they're just the beginning. You should have turned back at the Mississippi." She met my gaze, unblinking. "And miss all this excitement? I think not." A faint smile touched her lips, and in that moment, amid the blood and dust, I felt a spark ignite, a connection that defied logic, born from shared survival and unspoken sorrows. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the stream, I helped her back to the wagon train. Her father, a burly man named Elias Hargrove, eyed me suspiciously, his hand hovering near his rifle. "Indian," he muttered under his breath, the word dripping with the prejudice I'd come to expect from white settlers. Beside him stood Sarah, Amelia's younger sister, wide-eyed and clutching a doll, her innocence a stark contrast to the violence we'd just escaped. "Thank you for saving my daughter," Elias said gruffly, though his tone suggested he'd rather swallow nails. "But we'll handle it from here." I tipped my hat, a gesture I'd picked up from traders, to Amelia, our eyes locking one last time. "Stay safe, Miss Hargrove. The desert has teeth." That night, under a blanket of stars that my people read like ancient scrolls, I couldn't shake her from my mind. The way she'd stood her ground, the quiet strength in her voice, it stirred something in me, a restlessness I'd never known. As son of the chief, my life was mapped out. Protect our son, our unyielding spirit against the encroaching railroads and land grabs. I'd been trained since boyhood to hunt, to track, to lead. But Amelia? She was a wild wind, pulling me toward uncharted territories of the heart. I returned to the stream the next evening, telling myself it was to scout for more outlaws, but deep down I hoped she'd be there. And she was, sitting on a rock, her bandaged arm resting in her lap, staring at the rippling water as if it held answers to questions she dared not voice. "You shouldn't be out here alone," I said, approaching quietly so as not to startle her. She looked up, a smile breaking through the fatigue on her face. "Neither should you, Coyle. But here we are." We talked then, under the twilight sky, words flowing like the stream itself. She spoke of Boston's crowded streets, the factories that stole her brother's life in a tragic accident, forcing her family to seek fortune in the West. I shared fragments of my world, the legends of the first people, how the canyons whispered secrets of resilience, and the ache of losing my mother to a raid that left our village scarred. As the moon rose, our conversation deepened, vulnerabilities cracking open like parched earth after rain. "I feel lost sometimes," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper, "like I'm running from ghosts that follow me everywhere." I reached out, my hand brushing hers, a touch that sent electricity through me. "The spirits of the lost guide us, Amelia. They teach us to heal, to find strength in the unexpected." That night marked the beginning, a forbidden pull that grew with each secret meeting, but shadows loomed. Back at camp, my childhood friend Taza, a fierce warrior with eyes sharp as eagle talons, noticed my absences. "Where do you vanish to, brother?" he asked one dawn, his tone laced with suspicion. Taza had always envied my position as the chief's son, his ambitions simmering like a pot about to boil over. I brushed him off, but the seed of doubt was planted. And Amelia whispered of her father's growing watchfulness, his lectures on the dangers of savages, echoing the deep-seated prejudices that divided our worlds. Days blurred into a dance of stolen moments. I'd teach her Navajo ways, how to identify healing herbs like sage for wounds of the body and soul, how the stars mapped paths of destiny. She'd share tales of Eastern literature, quoting poets who spoke of love-defying odds, her words wrapping around my heart like a warm blanket against the desert chill. One evening, as we sat by the stream, a coyote howled in the distance, and Amelia shivered. I draped my blanket over her shoulders, our faces inches apart. "You're not like the stories they tell back east," she said softly. "You're real, strong but kind." My pulse raced. "And you're not the fragile settler I expected. You have the spirit of the land in you, Amelia, a fire that calls to mine." Our lips met then, tentative at first, then with a hunger born from suppressed longing. It was a kiss that tasted of dust and dreams, promising everything and risking all. But as we pulled apart, breathless, a rustle in the bushes made us freeze. Was it Taza, an outlaw scouting revenge? The uncertainty hung heavy, pulling us closer, even as it threatened to tear us apart. The push and pull intensified. My loyalty to my people warred with this burgeoning love, each meeting a balm to my soul's wounds but a dagger to my duties. Amelia confessed her own turmoil, defying her family's expectations, healing from her brother's death through our connection, yet fearing the backlash from a society that viewed me as the enemy. One night, as storm clouds gathered, Amelia arrived breathless. "Father's hiring men to patrol the camp. He suspects something. Someone." My jaw tightened. "Let him. I won't let go of this. Of us." But Taza's whispers had spread. He confronted me under the cover of night, his face twisted in jealousy. "You're betraying us for a white woman? The chief's son consorting with invaders? I'll expose you if you don't stop." His words stung like scorpion venom, forcing me to question everything. Yet, as I met Amelia again, her touch erased the doubts, her eyes reflecting a love that healed the fractures in my spirit. The climax of that week came unexpectedly. I was riding to our spot when gunfire erupted once more. Outlaws, the same gang seeking vengeance, had tracked Amelia, ambushing her as she wandered too far from the wagons. I arrived in a fury, revolver blazing. The leader, a scarred brute named Blackjack, laughed maniacally as he aimed at her. "This one's for my boys you killed, Redskin." I dove in front of her, taking a graze to the shoulder, pain exploding like fire. But I fired back, my shot true, dropping him in a heap. The fight was raw, masculine fury unleashed, fists flying when bullets ran dry. Dust choking the air as I wrestled another to the ground. My knife finding its mark, Amelia, not one to stand idle, grabbed a fallen rifle and covered me, her shot felling the last outlaw. We stood amid the carnage, breathing heavy, her hands on my wound. Tears mixing with blood. "You saved me again," she whispered, her voice breaking. "And I'd do it 1,000 times," I replied, pulling her close. Our kiss was desperate, fueled by the near loss. Emotions vortexing, fear, relief, passion swirling into something unbreakable. But as the adrenaline faded, a massive sandstorm brewed on the horizon, winds whipping up walls of grit. "We have to find shelter," I shouted, grabbing her hand. We ran, but the storm hit like a beast, separating us in the blinding chaos. I called her name into the void, my heart pounding with terror. Hours passed in the dark, cold, seeping into my bones as I used every Navajo trick, tracking by feel, listening to the wind to search for her. Dawn broke, revealing her huddled under an overhang, shivering but alive. Our reunion was a flood of emotions, tears, embraces, vows whispered against the rising sun. "I thought I'd lost you," I confessed, my voice raw. "You'll never lose me," she promised, her touch a salve to my soul. Yet the threats mounted. Taz's conspiracy grew. He rallied a few warriors, convinced I was weakening the tribe. And Elias Hargrove, fueled by rumors, vowed to drag Amelia away. In those moments by the stream, as we shared dreams of a world without walls, I felt the true power of love, a force that healed, that made me question the chains of tradition. Amelia became my anchor, her presence mending the grief of my mother's loss, igniting a resilience I didn't know I possessed. Sarah, Amelia's sister, added unexpected lightness. One afternoon she stumbled upon us, her childish curiosity breaking the tension. "Are you a real Indian prince?" she asked me, eyes wide. I chuckled, showing her a carved talisman. "Something like that, little one." Her innocence reminded me of what we fought for, a future where love bridged divides. But danger lurked. That night, as we parted, a pack of wolves shadowed us, drawn by the scent of blood from my wound. Their eyes glowed in the dark, circling with primal hunger. I built a fire quickly, arrows at the ready, while Amelia stood firm, her calm presence steadying me. We fought them off, my shots and shouts scattering the pack, emerging stronger, our bond forged in fire. As the chapter of our secret meetings drew to a tense close, I knew the storm was just beginning. Taza's betrayal simmered, outlaws whispered of revenge, and the divide between our worlds yawned wider. Yet, in Amelia's arms, I found a love that promised redemption, a path through the desert's harshness toward something beautiful and enduring. The West was wild, unforgiving, but in her, I saw hope, a chance to heal, to love beyond prejudice, to carve a destiny from dust,